Hello, and welcome to Budget Commander. On this channel, we'll discuss Magic the Gathering topics with a focus on playing Commander on a budget. We'll cover things like deck building, top cards, deck techs, and more. Let's get started. Hello friends, today we have an Anje Falkenrath deck tech for you. This is a budget deck tech, specifically 2DH, meaning all the cards in the deck are $2 or under, with the exception of the Commander, which can be $5 or under. I checked prices as of the day of recording using mtgstocks.com, so prices fluctuate, keep that in mind. Some of these cards are going to be up over $2 maybe by the time you see this video, but it was 2DH legal when we recorded it. Anje is a 3 to cast 1/3 vampire with haste, and you can tap her and discard a card to draw a card. Whenever you discard a card, if it has madness, untap Anje herself. So the goal of this deck is to put in a bunch of madness cards, get a bunch of value off of them by discarding them to Anje or a couple of different lands we have, and then getting to play that card for its madness and drawing an additional card on top of that. It's a value engine deck, and we're just looking to attrition our opponents out of the game. So EDH basics, we're going to start out by hoping to accelerate into our game plan, and then executing that game plan, which is just to remove everybody else's things and get combat damage in, or remove their key pieces anyhow. Then we'll talk about how we're going to interfere with our opponent's plans, what we're going to do to mess them up, remove their permanents, how this deck is going to be consistent through drawing cards and actually a lot of recursion, bringing stuff back from the graveyard. And then lastly, we'll talk about the land base, how we're going to be playing our spells. So, to start off, we have Wayfarer's Bauble and Burnished Heart, which help us to cheat extra lands onto the battlefield early. And we also have Armillary Sphere, which doesn't get lands to the battlefield, but it does help us hit our land drops. It can also help us to fix our colors, getting us either a mountain or a swamp, or two of one or the other. We also have Mind Stone and Star Compass for mana rocks. These come down on turn 2, which is great. Star Compass can provide us black as long as we have a swamp, and it can provide us red as long as we have a mountain. Mind Stone we can always sacrifice later in the game to draw a card. And then the Scare Tiller, he's a new card from the most recent Commander set. Whenever you tap him, you can return a land from your graveyard to the battlefield, which is probably what we're going to be doing, or we can put lands from our hand onto the battlefield tapped. It's great because we discard a bunch of our cards, and quite a few of our lands have cycling, so this is a way to get those lands back. Next up, we have the Rakdos Cluestone, Rakdos Locket, and Hedron Archive. These are all artifacts that tap, can fix our colors or give us 2 colorless, and then later in the game when we don't need those mana rocks, we can sacrifice them to draw additional cards. Dark Ritual, this is a 1 to cast instant, which is going to help ramp us to either an early big play, or if we have one of those cards that costs X, we can maybe play this and get extra value on those X cast spells. Getting into our game plan, like I said, it's just mostly value. So we have Hate Mirage, which is going to allow us to copy a couple creatures, get some of our opponent's creatures, hopefully their enter the battlefield triggers, or maybe some big creatures to swing at our opponents with, which is great. Twin Flame, which we can dump a ton of mana into, get triggers from our own creatures entering the battlefield, or have extra creatures to swing with. And then from under the floorboards, this is a madness. We usually want to probably cast it for madness. We're going to get X 2/2 zombies and gain X life depending on how much we cast X for. So great value card there. Malevolent Whispers, another madness card. It's just an active treason that gives the creature +2/+0. The added benefit is that we're going to essentially be getting extra cards off of these madness. Muck Drubs basically protects one of our creatures. We can flash it out, so we don't even need Anje on the battlefield, and use it, or we can flash it out for 5 and protect one of our creatures from getting blown up. Or if we have Anje or one of our other discard effects, we can cast it for its madness and protect something. The Gorgon Recluse is a 2/4 with kind of a pseudo death touch. Whenever it becomes blocked, destroy that creature at the end of combat, or if you block with her, it does the same thing, assuming the creatures aren't black. Next up we have Curse of Fool's Wisdom. This is another value card, costs 4 for its madness. We're going to put it on the player we think is most threatening. Whenever they're drawing cards, they're going to lose some life and we're going to gain some life. Archfiend of Spite is a 5 to cast for madness, 6/6 flyer. That is a little bit harder to remove. So if a source an opponent controls deals damage to this Archfiend of Spite, the source's controller loses that much life or sacrifices that many permanents. So can't really chump block it that easily, or you're still going to just be taking the damage. So cool card there. Blood Mad Vampire is a 2 madness for 1, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, put a +1/+1 combat or counter on it. So it's going to slowly be growing over the course of the game, and a 4/1 is nothing to bat your eyes at, especially for 2 mana. Avacyn's Judgment is a Madness X card, where we're going to deal X damage divided however we choose among whatever players or permanents we want. So you can hit Planeswalkers with it, or you can just wipe a bunch of creatures off the face of the planet. Terminate. Destroy something, can't be regenerated. Solid card. Big Game Hunter, a madness of 1 black, destroy a creature with power 4 or greater, can't be regenerated. More solid removal. Fiery Temper, not the best. I'm thinking like, oh look, Lightning Bolt does the same exact thing for 1. However, with that madness, it's going to give us extra value because we're going to be drawing cards, assuming we're using Angie to cast it, or one of our lands. Psychotic Haze, which the art on that looks super gross. He's got like needles through his forehead. Disgusting. But anyway, it's going to help get rid of all those pesky 1/1s out there, or if we got somebody who's playing a token strategy and they haven't gotten a pump on their tokens yet, one of those Anthem effects, this can wipe them out, which is great. Bloodhall Priest is going to be able to deal 2 damage to any target, assuming we don't have any cards in our hand when we play her, or whenever we attack. So great value, get rid of those utility creatures. Chain Reaction and Crux of Fate are great board wipes in 2DH. Not super expensive. Crux of Fate doesn't necessarily hit everything, but usually it can get the things we need. Archfiend of Ifnar is an all-star in this deck. Anytime we cycle or discard a card, we're going to put a -1/-1 counter on each of our opponent's creatures. So this will slowly just tick them down and kill off their stuff. So they need to get rid of this guy, or he's going to cause problems. Ob Nixilis is a super good value card. Put it down for 5, destroy something, and then you can constantly plus it to draw extra cards. You do have to pay 1 life, but great value card. We're probably not going to ultimate him, but if we do, that means whenever a player draws a card, a target opponent gets an emblem that whenever they draw a card, they lose 2 life. So similar to the Curse of Fool's Wisdom. Red Elemental Blast is just some hate for the blue players. If you don't have any blue mages at your table, you can always discard this with one of your other discard abilities to Angie. Alchemist's Greeting, deal 4 damage to a creature, so get rid of a middle-sized to small creature. Solid madness card. Flare of the Hatebound is a 4/2 with Undying. When it comes back from the graveyard, we're going to be able to deal 4 damage, or 4 damage to something. Then it gets a +1/+1 counter. Overseer of the Damned, recently back from 2DH. Used to be over, but got reprinted in Commander 2019. Love this card. It's a 5/5 flyer. When it enters, we can destroy a creature, and anytime a creature an opponent controls dies, we get a 2/2 zombie. So 7 power for 7 mana with a 5/5 flyer, and you get rid of somebody else's most threatening thing. Really good card. Ingaruk's Wake is just a one-sided board wipe. We're going to destroy all our opponent's creatures and planeswalkers. Myron Misery is going to cause each of our opponents to sack a creature, usually, but if they don't have any, then they're going to be sacking an enchantment. Plaguecrafter is similar in that it makes them sacrifice a creature or planeswalker, but if they don't have any legal targets, then they have to discard a card, which is great. Sire of Insanity, at the beginning of each end step, each player discards his or her hand. So yes, we're not going to have a hand either, but we don't mind not playing with all those cards. Plus, if we have madness cards at the end of our turn, we can get those madness triggers So really hates on those control players and those players that just play land go. Next up we have Voldaren Pariah. This is a 3 black for its madness, and it's a 3/3 flyer. If we can sacrifice 3 other creatures though, we get to transform her into a 6/5 flyer, and when she transforms, we get to pick an opponent, and that player has to sacrifice 3 creatures. Really can just wipe somebody out. Also, art on that looks really cool and creepy. Then we have Meteor Golem. This is kind of one of our only ways to deal with artifacts and enchantments. We do have a lot of recursion, so we can bring them back from our graveyard, but he gets just rid of any permanent we don't like. Oh, non-land permanent, I believe. Then, getting into consistency, these are cards that help us draw. So, Blood Scrivener, if we are playing Mire of Insanity's out, Sire of Insanity's out, this guy's going to draw us 2 cards at the start of our turn for the cost of 1 life. Seems good. Cathartic Reunion, we can discard to our madness and get 3 extra cards. And then Tectonic Reformation is another great card that gives all of our lands cycling. So, we do have quite a few lands in this deck. This will allow us to send those to the graveyard to draw extra cards and keep our deck going, give us gas. Read the Bones, solid draw spell, scry 2, draw 2, lose 2 life. Angie's Ravager, this is a kind of like a wheel effect. Whenever this creature attacks, and it has to attack each combat, we're going to discard our hand, but then we're going to draw 3 extra cards. So keeps our hand full, keeps us going. Even if you only get 1 trigger off of this because you have no good attacks, it's a solid card. Stormkirk Occultist is a 3/2 with trample, costs 2 for its madness, and whenever it deals damage to a player, we get to exile the top card of our library, and then until end of turn we can play that card, so it gives us some extra card advantage. Wildfire Devils, this is a fun card. It's a 4/2 creature, and when it enters the battlefield and at our upkeep, we get to choose a player at random, so it could be ourselves, could be an opponent, and then that player is going to exile an instant or sorcery card from their graveyard. We get to copy that card and cast the copy without paying its mana cost. So just going to give us continual card advantage by giving us instants and sorceries. Sometimes you'll get a miss and the thing won't do anything for you, but it's a fun card. I like this style of play. Runehorn Hellkite is a 5/5 flyer that we can exile from our graveyard and wheel, so each player is going to discard their hand and draw 7 cards. We get to choose the timing of it. It's a big creature, 5/5 flyer. We like that. Boneyard Parlay. This is kind of a fact or fiction for graveyards. We're going to exile up to 5 creature cards from graveyards, our own or our opponent's. Pick an opponent, and they're going to separate those 5 cards into 2 piles. Put all the cards from the pile of our choice onto the battlefield under our control, and the rest into their owner's graveyard. So either way, we're going to get probably 2 or 3 really good creatures, maybe 1 and 4, I don't know. But it's going to be good value for us. Call to the Netherworld is just return a black creature card from our graveyard to our hand, madness cost of 0. Sanitarium Skeleton, he just gives us a discard engine, so we can discard cards or discard him to stuff, then whenever we have extra mana, return him to our hand. We don't really want him on the battlefield, we just want him in our graveyard or in our hand. Shadow of the Grave gives us extra value in that any cards that we discard, we can return them back to our hand. So if we have to wheel, we can cancel that wheel by drawing those cards back with Shadow of the Grave. Only costs 2, so solid play there. Death Denied, I was first exposed to this card when I was playing Pauper. I did not realize how good this card is. But pay 2 black and X, and you can return X cards from your graveyard to your hand. Victimize, choose 2 creatures in your graveyard, sacrifice a creature, and return those 2 creatures. So 2 for 1, great card there. And then Grave Scrabbler for 2, we're going to return a creature from our graveyard to our hand. So more value. Beacon of Unrest, this is super cool. We're going to take an artifact or creature from any graveyard and put it onto the battlefield under our control, and then we get to shuffle Beacon of Unrest back into our library. Garner of the Bloodflame protects us from board wipes and all kinds of other shenanigans. Whenever she comes out, and she's got flash, so you can cast her anytime. Maybe that's a he. I don't know. He. Whenever he comes out, Garner, I don't know. Anyway, all our creatures are going to have haste, and whenever this creature comes out, we get to put all the cards that were put into our graveyard from the battle. Return to your hand all creature cards in your graveyard that were put there from anywhere this turn. I need to move on. Torrent of Souls is a 5 to cast sorcery. If we pay black and red to cast it, which we should easily be able to do, we're going to be able to return a creature from our graveyard to the battlefield, and that creature is going to get +2/+0 and haste until end of turn, of course. And then our last card that provides consistency is Soul of Innistrad. It's a 6/6 Death Toucher for 6. But what we care about is its activated ability, which says pay 5 and return up to 3 creature cards from our graveyard to our hand. Great value there. It is expensive to use, but if the game goes long, this is going to help win us the game. If this one's in our graveyard, we can also pay 5 to exile it and do the same thing. Next up, we'll get into our lands. We got Akum Refuge, Bloodfell Caves, Cinder Barrens, which give us all our colors. A couple of them enter and gain a life. They do all enter tapped, which is unfortunate. However, Command Tower does not enter tapped, gives us both our colors. Foreboding Ruins can enter untapped as long as we can reveal a mountain or swamp from our hand. And then Exotic Orchard can give us both our colors, assuming we have an opponent who's playing black or red. Rakdos Carnarium and Rakdos Guildgate gave us both our colors. Rakdos Carnarium, however, does bounce land or hand, but it will add both black and red for us. Myriad Landscape can help ramp us a little bit by getting 2 lands to the battlefield by sacrificing it. They do have to be the same type, so 2 mountains or 2 swamps, but it's a great value card. Also, we might be able to return it with the Scare Tiller. Same thing goes for Evolving Wilds or Terramorphic Expanse. Drownyard Temple just gives us another discard engine that we can return, like the Sanitarium Skeleton. And then here's the other 2 all-stars of the deck. Gear Reach Sanitarium and the Rix Mahdi Dungeon Palace all help us to get our madness cards going. Lands are typically hard to remove, so these are great ways to do that if we don't have Angie out. Gear Reach Sanitarium, each player is going to draw a card and then discard a card. For us, that means we're going to get an extra card, assuming we discard a madness and are able to cast it. Rix Mahdi works the other way in that everybody's going to discard a card, so everybody loses a card. However, if we discard our madness card, we don't really lose anything. So Gear Reach is going to draw us a card more than everybody else, essentially, and Rix Mahdi is going to be forcing everybody else to discard. So just great card advantage. Handwear Battlements, we're mostly just using it to give our creatures haste. That third ability we don't touch at all because we don't have the Handwear Battlements and the Garrison in our deck. So don't worry about that, but haste is always nice. Memorial to Folly, as well as Mortuary Mire, are going to help us get creatures back from our graveyard. Otherwise, they add black for us. Temple of the False God gives us an extra 2 colorless as long as we have 5 lands out. Then we have a bunch of cycle lands. Barrenmoor, Blasted Landscape, Desert of the Fervent, Forgotten Cave, and Smoldering Crater. And then lastly, our basics. 12 swamps and... Sorry, that should say 6 mountains. Scratch that 12, it should say 6, my bad. And then lastly, we'll look at the mana curve. There's the mana curve for you. Average CMC was 3.94. However, if you casted all the cards for their madness cost, they'd be 3.37. And I factored in all the cards with a casting cost of X as a 7 drop. So it's kind of a loose figure there, but that's the average CMC. Hope you guys enjoyed this deck tech. Let me know what commander you want to see next, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Peace! Thanks for watching. You can help support this channel by hitting that subscribe button. This will help keep you up to date on content from Budget Commander. If you liked the video, make sure you like the video. Leave me a comment with your thoughts on this topic, and if you think someone else could benefit from this video, feel free to share. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk with you next time.